What is going on, guys? Welcome to this week's episode of Choosing Us. I am Brad. That is Michaela. Nice to have you.
Wow. All right. Well,
that was official.
there you go. Yeah, I don't know if we're really that official. I mean,
But we are.
it's true. You're just goofy.
You're as official as you choose to be.
That's fact. You're officially goofy. I'll give you that.
I'll take it. I accept.
You're welcome.
I accept. We've got a fun episode for you guys to think about. It is by way of an analogy, this whole episode. And this one is important in the way that you approach, reflect, and ponder on your life, your relationship, what you put in, what you take out, how much you put in, how much you take out, and having these different transactions. Because at the end of the day, all relationships are transactional.
Yes.
Every single relationship you have, there's a transaction involved. Think about those relationships. We all have that friend that just like takes and 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 takes. I'm like, dude, are you ever going to give back to me?
Yeah.
Or and most of us know that relationship, and we kind of just auto assumed and just took it on ourselves of like, I know when I interact with this person, they're going to want something. And I got to kind of get my energy up a little bit to be with them because I know they're going to want something and they're going to hit me with whatever it is. And while they are very meaning well, they have great intentions and they're a great friend, they just take from you all the time. And anytime you go to them, say, hey, can you do this for me? Can I have this? Can we do this on my behalf? And they come back with like, I'm so sorry. I'm way too busy. Hey, can you take my kids? I'm always taking your kids so you guys can go on a date. Can you take my kids this time? Oh, we're so busy. I'm sorry. We just can't do it. We have that. We've had that before, and where we're always giving. And I'm happy to give, but at some point there must be a take.
Yeah.
I was in a coaching group once upon a time. Great group. Awesome group in the beginning. And I was going in recognizing that I was in a different place of life than most of the group. And I got into the group to support the leader of the group. They're a friend, and I was supporting them. And this group, I saw a need. And so I helped and helped and helped and helped and helped and helped. And then I would go in and ask for a little piece of something. Like, hey, who knows somebody that does this? The end. That's it. Crickets. Or, sorry, man, can't help you. Nobody ever responded back. Well, after about 8 months of that, I said, I told Michaela, I'm gonna discontinue that group because it is continuously drawing on my energy. And I'm happy to give, but at some point, there needs to be a response to help me out because I don't have the bandwidth to fully give all the time. And a lot of these times, it was actually hurting us. It was taking from my energy. There was things that I put financial amount in. I put money into things to help move people's company. I put time. I do photography. I do all of these videos. And I've done photography for 12 years. And some people, I did full-blown photo shoots that would cost thousands of dollars. And I bought equipment to handle their product because I'd never shot their product. And I put dozens of hours into researching how to shoot that product. And nothing came out the backside. And I was grateful to be able to help these people. But at the same time, very few responded. And I can think of 2 people that responded and reciprocated the effort. And guess what? We're still friends with them. A year and a half later, we still communicate with them. They're still friends. And we still give to them and they still give to us.
Yeah. And it gets hard and it's exhausting. We're both givers. We talk about this a lot, that we both enjoy giving. We love serving. We love helping our friends, especially, but not just our friends, anybody. If someone needs help, we're there to help. We love doing that. But there comes a point to where when you don't receive that in return, after a while, it kind of hurts and it sucks.
It gets old.
It does.
Quickly.
Yep.
As you can gather, what we're pointing at is you have these relationships in your life. We all have these friends. We all have these familial relationships with like family members and stuff, siblings or cousins or aunts or uncles or what have you. How is this in your relationship? How much are you giving versus how much are you taking in your relationship?
Now that goes along with the analogy that we haven't brought up yet, but has been talked about. And I've heard in tons of different conversations of seeing and viewing your relationship as a bank account. How often are you depositing into your bank account, into your relationship, compared to how often are you withdrawing from your relationship, from the bank account? If you are always pulling, you're going to go negative. If you're not putting anything in, but you just keep taking, you're going to go in the negative.
Yeah, you're gonna get into some hot water for sure. And vice versa. If you are always giving, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That's not necessarily a good thing.
No.
Because in the world of banking, I mean, I love business. I love transactions. I love moving money. When you have a large surplus of money in your bank account, one, you're losing money due to inflation. You're losing money more so than you're gaining on interest. And two, it's not being used for anything. What good is money if it just sits in an account and does nothing? Makes you feel cool? Awesome. But money deployed is money used. I've been approached a few times and all of our assets are deployed right now and waiting for things to come back. And I've had a few different opportunities. They say, hey, would you like to do this? Of course, I'd love to do that, but I am fully deployed. It's not that I don't want to spend something. I'm just fully deployed. In your relationship, how much are you deploying what you're using? If you're just constantly pumping money into the system, you're constantly pumping into the system, but not deploying, to be honest, that makes your spouse feel a little bit not useful. Let me put this in a case. If I am constantly putting things into Michaela all the time, but not ever receiving, she wants to give, but if I'm not receiving, she'll sit there and be like, dude, how can I help you? How can I do this for you? Because you keep on giving to me and I don't feel like I'm reciprocating. Therefore, it is kind of just like in a bank account, having a surplus is not actually a good thing. I will tell you now, I know a lot of very wealthy people, very wealthy. I know several billionaires, and they do not have very much in a bank account. They do not have much liquid. Liquid, for those that don't know, means they have cash they can literally pull right now. They have enough liquid for about 6 to 12 months of their living expense, and that's it. Everything else, some of them billions of dollars, are deployed into businesses, into assets that help them grow. This same case goes for your relationship. If I'm constantly pumping into Michaela, but I'm not receiving, she can try and deposit into my account all the time. She can try and give to me, but if I'm not receiving, then it's good for nothing.
Receiving's huge. And that's hard for a lot of people to actually receive fully because they have these walls up and they don't want to be vulnerable or they don't want to let someone in. You have to be just as good at receiving as you are giving. But this also made me think about when we first got married, you did a lot for me. You were amazing. You would always, and still do, open my doors, which I love. But I remember I'd be like sitting on the couch, and you're usually the one that makes dinner because I don't cook. But you would be...
Choose not to cook is probably the more appropriate.
It's true.
She very much so can.
Yeah, I can. Yours just tastes better. But I remember...
I received that.
You're welcome. I remember that I got used to that. I got used to always receiving. You did a lot for me. I would be sitting on the couch and be like, hey, can you go get this for me? And I know you would get it for me when I could easily get up and go get it myself. Or something to that nature of I could always count on you to get me something or do something for me. And you were always giving, giving, giving. Well, I got so used to that I actually got more lazy. I stopped doing things that I could have done because I knew you would do it. And we had a conversation a few years in, and I remember this, that you were like, are you going to put in something? Like, are you going to do something? And I can't remember the conversation entirely, but I do remember it was a big reality check to me that I was getting lazy, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be partners. I wanted to be a team on the same level, not you up here putting in all of this work, doing all these things for me, and I wasn't reciprocating that. And so I actually became more lazy because of how much you were doing for me, that I knew that you would do it for me. So I stopped doing it for myself.
And you guys have to understand, I recognized I was marrying a 19-year-old. I knew this going into it.
Yeah.
I made the prior agreement with myself that I was going to have to kind of raise her. She was the oldest in her family. I'm the youngest. My siblings, my oldest brother is 10 years older than me. And so we have those different dynamics. I was raised in a very different generation. We are 5.5 years apart, but I am the bottom of Generation X and she's the top of millennial. I technically am still a millennial, but I was raised with Generation Xers. And my parents are baby boomers. And so generationally, I'm actually of the same generation as her aunts and uncles, as her parents. That's my generation.
Yeah.
And so I went into this, and I'm not saying that she was a baby, but she definitely had, as she's already stated, immaturities. And I went into it knowing that I was going to have to kind of show her. I had been on my own. For those that don't know, we're members of the church, and I served a mission. I'd lived on my own and had to be self-sufficient for years to this point. And at this point, I was living with my parents, but my parents were traveling America racing road bikes. I basically lived on my own in my parents' roof. And that was basically it. And so we came into this, and I knew that I was going to have to carry a little bit more of a burden. However, I also recognized when she started getting lazy, and a very good tell. If you go back I don't even know if her social media goes back this far, to be honest. If you go back, she gained quite a bit of weight.
Yeah.
Because she was dancing, and she relied on being a dancer all of high school. And then when she got married, I worked and she stayed at the house. We didn't have kids. And at some point, she was getting different schooling in nails and aesthetics and getting esthetician licenses and things. But that's a lot of sitting around. It's a lot of just hanging out. And at one point, she had gained quite a bit of weight. And she got lazier, as she's already pointed out. And I mean, I loved her regardless. And to be honest, I knew she was gaining weight, but at the same time, I didn't notice it. Like I didn't notice it at the time. And then I'd see photos. I'm like, oh man, her face is getting like significantly more round. Her waist, or she's always buying new clothes saying these pants don't fit, and was going up in clothing sizes. And then she finally, about this time, is about 3 years into our marriage, 2.5, 3 years. And we were hitting up on if you recall, the 3 to 5 year baby time. And she said, I want to get in the best shape of my life for our kids. And that was the driver, that you're like, I'm going to get in amazing shape because I want to have a good pregnancy. And I know being unhealthy and not working out, because I was going to the gym every day, and I would always invite her the night before, are you going with me to the gym? No, not tomorrow, was the answer. And that was fine. I wasn't trying to push her, and I was just simply inviting her. And she knew that I was just simply invited. At least I feel like you knew that. And finally, one day, and periodically she would test the water. She'd come and she'd sit on the treadmill and she would just walk on the treadmill for the full hour we were there. So finally, one day she decided to flip the script. And then she started taking care of herself and she started doing more. And don't misunderstand this conversation. We have had at times 6 months to 12 months at a time where it's flipped, where I was working 12s to 14s, sometimes even 18s and 20s. Yeah, 20-hour days at the office. We did that. We've been there. And I come home and I'm beat, like literally sit on the couch and fall asleep sitting up. And there's photos of me. There's photos of me with my feet hanging on the sandbox with our son in the sandbox, and I'm completely passed out. I'm out. He's playing in the sandbox, and I'm just literally sitting in a chair with my feet on it, and I'm out. And she's cooked the dinner, and I said, can you please just grab me a drink? I'm very capable of grabbing a drink. But she recognized that I was completely depleted. So this is a very much so two-way street. And it will never be in balance. Ever.
No, someone will always, and it fluctuates throughout different seasons, that sometimes I'm doing a little bit more to help at the house because you're working really hard and have tons of things going on. And other times I'm struggling and you're picking up more of the slack, and it's going to go back and forth. But I feel like it also comes down to not criticizing your partner when those happen. When it's like, you're not helping, you're not doing this. Like, why are you not helping with this? Why am I always the one that I have to come home and then I'm doing the dishes and then I'm feeding the kids and I'm doing all this? Like, it's not about keeping score. You're in it together. So are you both adding to the relationship and helping each other? Or are you taking? Are you always taking, or are you giving?
This comes back to a pretty consistent theme with our show, which is how's your communication, which is a throwback to last week's episode on how are you reacting. If you remember last week, I came home from a bike ride and I was testy, and Michaela asked me what's going on. She didn't say, why are you being a jerk? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing? No, she just said very clearly and confidently and calmly, what is happening? You are not your normal self. So where is your communication? What is your end goal? Your end goal is to become better. Your end goal is to create a happy life together. Are you doing that by putting into the system, putting into the bank account, but also receiving when you ask and receiving when they give? And sometimes it is a little bit of a take, and that's okay. There are plenty of times where I take from Michaela, and there's plenty of times where she takes from me. There has been times where she's talked to a girlfriend and they're at the house and I come home and do the dishes. And she's like, yeah, self-admittedly, I could have done the dishes, but I kind of didn't because I knew Brad was going to do it and I didn't want to. That's okay. She knows I'm going to do it when we get home if it's not done. This is part of the taking sometimes. And it's okay to take sometimes, because we're in it together. After all, where you focus, you find. What are you focusing on? And that's a throwback to several episodes ago. Where are you focusing your attention? Where are you focusing your energy? Are you having these conversations? Are you putting into the system and receiving from the system?
Yeah. And to end on that, I would just say, really, if you're going to take one thing from this, look at your relationship on a daily basis and find ways to give to your relationship every single day. We get so caught up in life, in everything that you have going on throughout your day. We all have busy lives. We all have tons of stuff going on. Is your relationship, is your partner a priority? Are you giving to the relationship? Are you helping the relationship to grow each and every day? Just one little thing. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just think at the end of each day, have I given to this relationship and deposited something into our relationship today? or have I been taking all day? And think about that every single day.
And the caveat is do that in their love language. You could do it in your love language all day long, but if it's in your love language, they won't really receive it unless they're fairly practiced in recognizing your love language. But if that's not practiced, it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Yeah.
So get to know them. And we will do an entire episode on love languages. We're getting there.
Yes.
But that's a foreshadow, right? Go look it up, get familiar with them, and put into the system in the way they see it.
Yep. Talk about it. Have the conversations. Take the test together. There's a test. And have conversations.
So have these conversations with your spouses. Share this episode with your significant other, with your friends, with your family. That is the only way this grows. And we have seen it grow. Super cool. We appreciate you. We thank you. Leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, iTunes. I said Apple, iTunes, same thing. Amazon, Google, wherever you listen to this thing. Go leave us a review. Have a conversation with us. You can find me on social, Mr. Brad Draper.
And mine is Draper Choosing Us.
We love you guys. Like it, subscribe to it, download it for future listenings. Until next week, love you. Bye.
Love you guys.